If we were in class, Haley, you get a BOF, and BOF is just candy. Okay. So this here, our black one, is what's called our parent formula. Okay. And the parent formula is kind of like the base formula that everything else is built off of. And that's just y equals x squared. So if I were to use like a table of values for this, for example, -3 would be my x, and -3 times -3 equals 9. And if -2 was my x, -2 times -2 equals 4. And I'm going to keep going here. -1. Oops. Where's my thing here? There we go. -1's my x value. -1 times -1. And you can see how this dots I made match up. Oops. With right here. You see how the dots all match up. Okay, so that's because we're just squaring each number. And that's our parent formula. And then everything that happens with our variables here is built off this original formula. So we're going to leave this one here, and we're going to see how these change it. So the first thing I want to look at is, and I'll make another one down here. And the a value happens right in front of the x. So in this case, the a value would be just right in front as such. So I'm going to put a 2 there. And I cannot change my color there, can I? And then I'm going to put a -2. Can anyone make a guess of what happens when I put a negative? If I have an a value, in this case 2 is my a value, what happens if it's negative? Can anyone tell me what happens if it's negative and what happens if it's positive? I'll make another one negative. Y equals this. So type in chat if you think you know what happens. I'm going to put like a -0.5. With that being said, I'll do a positive 0.5. The parabola flips. Good. So a negative a value will make it open down, right? A positive a value, it opens up. Let's go back to our notes to self here. I'll see if I can fit in.
So the a value tells you whether or not it opens up or down.
The positive or negative aspect of the a value.
Yeah.
Okay. So positive a opens up. Negative a opens down. Now the technical wording here, I have a tendency to use plain language instead of technical, is a negative a reflects how come I can't? Oh my God. So if you hold a mirror, it would reflect, but I'm fine with a positive a opens up, a negative a opens down, and I'm happy with that. Does that make sense, everyone? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay, press D. Give me a D in chat if you're all done writing what I wrote down there in your notes to self. Okay. We probably won't get all the way through this before Mass at 11, but that's fine. I'd much rather take my time and do it properly instead of rushing through it. All right. I'm going to switch back to my graph. If you need me to stay, Mass is at 11, correct. Then we'll stop at like 10:55. And then I'll tell you what time we'll come back at. How long's the Mass? Depends how much you sinned, Laura. I joke, it should be about an hour. So we'll probably come back maybe 12:20, 12:30. I'll tell you what time we're coming back at before we head out. All right, so let's go back here.
Mr. O,
Yeah, go ahead, Andres.
do we have to stay and watch the whole Mass?
I will be streaming the Mass.
Oh.
I don't know if behind your two AAs as a person or not, Andreas. I'm not going to do an attendance check. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's look at this next. What happens to our graph if our number is in between 0 and 1? Am I in between 0 and 1? That's like in between 0 and 1 or 0 and -1. So what happens if it's a decimal place or a fraction? So let me put that one in there. And I'm going to make this one like a 0.1. Okay. And then I'm going to make one that is maybe a 10. I'm going to make one that is a 0.5. So I'll make one that is like a 20. So remember that this one here with the dots on it is our standard one, like our parent one. Everything's built off of that. Okay. What would you describe happens? Let's take away my decimal place at once. How would you describe what happens? This one here being our standard one. What happens in normal, in however you want to describe it? What happens when the numbers are greater than 1? So if you remember, one of this is, what do I write that as? One's 10 and one's 50. The black one here is 10 and this one here is 50. What happens to it? Can anyone describe in their own words what happens to it? What happens to that parabola? It grows on the x-axis. Okay, I kind of understand what you're getting at there. Do you have any other descriptions? The slimmer. Okay, I like that term. Okay, good. So you can think about it as getting skinnier as well. Now you can also think about that original parabola. Think about it like as if it's attached at this point, and you grab these two ends and you stretched it upwards. But I like it gets skinnier. Let's include that. So let's go back here. So a value over 1 skinny. Okay. I'm going to jump back here real quick. I'm going to put a -1 in here. Let's just make this -50. You can see how, since I put a negative in, it opens down, but it's still skinny. Okay. Now, if I'm going to put the math term in here, it is stretch. So type a D in chat if you've got that definition in there. Okay. Okay. You're saying you're no. Okay. You're saying tell me when you have it in there. Okay. Okay. You're saying are you all finished now?
Yeah, I was just copying the next definition that you wrote, but I'm done.
Okay, we'll hop back and let's take a look at these ones. What happens when it's a decimal place? Who could give me a plain definition of that? What happens to them? Use a W term, not a F term. It widens. Good. And what it's referred to as, like mathematically, is compressed. Like you can picture, if that's a parabola and someone put their hand on top of it and pushed it down, it would get wider, like it's being compressed. So let's hop back to our note here. So it gets wider. Does that make sense to everyone? So if it's a high number above 0, above 1, it gets skinnier, it gets stretched. If it's a number between 0 and 1, both in the positive and negative, it gets wider. Okay. I'm going to show you one more thing. We're not going to write anything down. I'm just going to show you before we stop for mass. And then we'll come back at 12:30 will be our time. I think that's a comfortable time. So I'm going to show you one thing here first. Oops, turn that off. And what do I call it in here? Oh, step pattern. Okay. Our step pattern. If you look at, this is our original formula, right? The x squared one. And it has what's called a step pattern. And our step pattern is, and I wrote it down here, the original step pattern is 1, 3, 5, 7. 1, 3, 5, 7. If you had Mrs. Zonnefeld, she calls it a dance pattern and does some crazy dance in front of everyone. But I don't dance, so I'm not going to do that. So if you look here, if you start from the very base, it's 1, 3, 5, 7, which means if you go over 1 and you go up 1, that's where the first dot goes. Both ways, over 1, up 1. Then our second step pattern is 3. So we go over 1, up 1, 2, 3. Then our next step pattern is 5. 1, 3, 5, 7. So we go over 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? What's our next pattern? 7 then? So over 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can see it works on the other side too. 1 over 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So that, if we look at our step pattern, that's what it means. The original step pattern. So if you have nothing in front, if you have no a value, or the a value is 1, our step pattern is going to be 1, 3, 5, 7. And even if I do like a negative 1 here, same step pattern. It's a negative 1, so I go over 1. Let me zoom in. Over 1, down 1. Over 1, down 3. Give me a Y in chat if you see that. If you see what I mean by the step pattern. Okay. Now I'm going to show you something here. Let's just experiment. Hopefully that's a different color. Oh, stupid black. Who wants a black one? Let's look at this one. I put a 2 in front of there. Look what happens to my step pattern. There we go. I go over, to get to the first point, I go over 1, and this time I have to go up 2. So it was 1, 1, but now it's 1, 2. Now what's my next step? Usually 1, 1, 3. Now with the purple one here, which is a 2, I go over 1, and then I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what's happened to my step pattern when I put the 2 in front of it? Does anyone see that? When I put the 2 in front of it, what happened to my step pattern? This step pattern was 1, 1, 1, 3. Now, when I put the 2 in front of it, it's now 1, 2, and then 1, 6. So my original step pattern was like this. My new step pattern, we said it was 1, 2, then a 6, it's doubling each time. Very good. Okay, I gotta shut it down there. even though you guys are on a roll and just ready to eat it up. Okay. Farley, what do you think would happen if the A value was 0.5? Let's see if anyone can take a guess here. What's going to happen to my step pattern if my A value is 0.5? Can anyone take a guess there? When my A value was 2, it doubled. Good. Perfect. You multiply your step pattern by what your A value is. In this case, it was 2 times 1 gave us 2. 2 times 3 gave us 6. And this one would be 0.5 times 1 would give us 0.5. Good. Okay, so give me a Y in chat if you understand that part of it. All right. So that's where we left off. I'm going to go back to our step pattern real quick. So the step pattern you should memorize. It's 1, 3, 5, 7. That's the only part of the step pattern you really need. Now, if we go back and look at our parent function, like our original one, what the step pattern means is 1, 3, 5, 7. It means we go over 1, up 1, we can put our dot there. Over 1, up 3, 1, 2, 3, we run into our line again. And it works on the opposite side too. So this one's over 1. Now we did 3 last time, so this one's 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're up here. Now we discovered, or more specifically, Farley discovered, when we had a 2 in front of it, our step pattern doubled. So we go over 1, and instead of going up 1 this time, we go up 2, and then we run into our parabola. Now we go over 1 this time. Before it was over 1, up 3. But this time it's over 1, up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Farley discovered when you change the A value, your step pattern changes by that much. So you can look here how our original step pattern, here is this pattern. Our original step pattern is 1, 3, 5, 7. If our A value was 2, so if I had an equation like this, right, that means our step pattern doubles. So we did 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 3, this would be 2 times 5, and 2 times 7. And Farley also thought if we had a 0.5 in front, that would mean we would times everything by 0.5. So 0.5 times 1 would be 0.5. And then 0.5 times 3 would equal 1.5. This would be 5 and this would be 7. So let's try that out. Here we go. So this time our step pattern was, before it was up over 1, up 1, but we're doing 0.5, so we're going to cut it in half. So over 1, up 0.5, and we run into it. Then it's going to be over 1, usually it's over 1, up 3. Well, half of 3 is 1.5, so let's try that out. Over 1, up half, and 1. Boom. We're right there. Do you guys all understand that? How our step pattern changes depending on what the value of A is. Does anyone want me to go over it again with a different number? Put an O in chat if you want me to go over it again with a different number. All right, so let's go with another one. let's go with a -3. So let's say A equals -3. What's going to happen to our step pattern? So if I extended this over here, our original step pattern is 1, 3, 5, 7. If we have A equals -3, we're going to multiply -3 times 1 equals -3. -3 times 3, -9, -15, -21. Give me a Y in chat, and I'm looking for the people who said O. Give me a Y in chat if you understand how I got that -3 as my step pattern. So I took the A value and multiplied it by my original step pattern. Okay. So let's go check this out and see if we're right. So I'm going to get rid of that one. Let's, so I'm going to put a -3 here. So I changed that one as Y equals -3x. Now let's take a look at our step pattern. So we said our step pattern was going to be -3, -9. So let's take a look. So if we go over 1, there's 1. Let me zoom out so we just get ones. Okay. So over 1, then we're going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3. We can put a dot. Okay. Then next one's -9. So we go over 1, down 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you guys will use this later on to graph these parabolas. They'll use this step pattern. So I just want you to understand the step pattern today. Tomorrow we'll start graphing. Okay? Of the people who said O, do you understand it now? Do you see it a little bit better now? Yes or no? Okay. It'll come. We're just introducing it today. So that's everything to do with the A value. Okay, so if we take a look here, everyone should have this written down into your step pattern. You can include the -3 in there as well. I want you to have that written down, and maybe a little note over here that says like, where am I most go? Maybe a little note off to the side that says, multiply the A value by the step pattern. Okay? And that becomes our new step pattern. So give me a D in chat when you're all done copying this down. I'll wait for Yosan. Yosan seems to be my standard bearer of knowing when people have completed it. Oh, perfect. Put a T in chat right now if you need me to go back to it. So if I don't see anything, I won't go back to it. So I am going to get rid of this. We've already used that part. So right now we're going to start play with the h value. Okay. Oh, I need x squared. So there's our parent one. There's the one that has everything built off it. So let's try to switch this h value around. So I'm going to put a couple in here. And I want you to tell me what you observe. And tell me what you think that h value does. What do you think me changing the h here does to the graph, to the parabola? What happens to the graph? This middle one here going through 0 being the master, like the mother one. I'm a little more specific, Farley. Okay. You're half right. Be a little more specific for me. What does the h value move? Okay. H deserves the horizontal shift. Perfect. So h moves it left or right. Okay, it's a horizontal. But what do you recognize? Let me take away these guys. Oops, I didn't want to take them all away. What's the sign with these ones? The sign is negative, but it goes right. Okay? And if the sign is positive, it goes left, which is a little counter, it's backwards, right? What you have to recognize here, and I'll go through it on a separate sheet right now. Actually, let's go through it right now. So I'm going to write it over to the side here. So the equation is this. The equation is, I'm just going to do this part of it. X minus h squared. So if I put a positive number in there, okay, let's put a positive 3. X minus positive 3 squared. That negative times a positive is going to equal a negative. That's why you see, if you see a negative inside there, it actually moves to the right. Even though it's negative, like this here is negative right here, it still goes to the right 3. Because it's actually a positive number in there, but the negative number switches it. Just as I put a negative in here, let's put a negative 6 in there. Y equals x minus negative 6. When I simplify this, a negative times a negative equals a positive. And that is why this one that appears to be positive right here goes this way. So I always talk about it as a land of opposites. If it's a negative in there, it's actually going right. If it's a positive in there, it actually goes left. So if I talk about the land of opposites, that's what I mean. So let's go back and write our note on this. That's a horrible saying. Let's scrape this out. Okay. Now let's first write Okay. So h moves the parabola left and right. Does that make sense, everyone? Then I would write h plus x plus h moves it to the left. Then I write down here if it's x minus h moves to the right. Okay. Does that make sense to everyone, how I wrote it? Yes or no? Once you're all done writing it, tell me in chat if that makes sense. The key when you're working with h values, you have to remember it's in the land of opposites. It actually means the opposite thing, like the calculation I showed you off to the side. Does anyone put a T in chat if you need a little bit more time to write that down? Okay, Farley, not a problem. And Farley, tell me when you're all done, okay? So logic tells you, I want you to think right now what that last letter is going to do. So we dealt with A, and the A value makes it wider or thinner. We dealt with H, which moves it left and right. Can anyone make a guess what that last letter is going to do? What's that K value going to probably shift? So who thinks they can guess what the K value is going to do? You're along the right lines, but not quite there. Not tall or short, but up and down. So if I had this, oops, and then I go +2, what happens to it? Yeah, that makes sense. If I put a +2 up there, it moves it up. If I put a -4 here, it moves it down. Okay. Does that make sense, everyone? We can go back to our little note. So K value moves the parabola up and down. A positive K moves it up. A negative K moves it down. Then we'll start to put it all together. Put a D in chat when you're all done writing that up. Geosand's done? Good. Okay. So now let's put it all together here. Let's put one big one together. 3 bracket x minus 4 squared plus 2. Ah. What does Frank's mean? So here's my question to you. In chat, can you tell me how this is going to be shifted horizontally? What's going to how's it going to shift horizontally? Is it going to be shifted to the left or to the right horizontally? And how many spots horizontally? Let me do this one first, way. Let's put it here. So if I look at horizontal, horizontal is the h value, where if we look at our notes to self, right, h is inside the bracket. If I go inside the bracket, it moves left and right, but it's a land of opposites. So I have a -4 there, so it's going to go 4 right. Then this 2 is going to tell me it's going to go 2 up. It's a plus, so it's going to open up. And then 3 would be the step pattern. Okay. Actually, the best way to do this is through the homework. So if I go to Andreas's homework, week 2, Wednesday practice, kind of did this first one here, although I messed it up. So if I take a look at this first one, this is one I've already done. Here's the equation here. And have your notes to future self out, where it has the equation a bracket x minus h squared plus k. Okay? So is the direction of this one going up or down? Well, I take a look here, and since it's negative in front here, I know it's going down. What's my a value? Well, my a value is -2. Okay. Does it have a new step pattern? Well, yep. Since I have a number in front, then I do have a new step pattern. And what is new step pattern? I times everything here, right, by -2. Then I ask, what's my h value? My h value is -5, or it's 5 here. And I'm going to move to the right because it's a negative in there, so it's going to be coming out. Then what's my k value? My k value is 4, so I'm going to move up 4. Did everyone understand how I just did that demonstration for the first question? Give me a what? Farley says yes. Okay. Let's do the next one together. Okay. So in chat, tell me, is my direction of opening for this one up or down? So right up, a U for up or a D for down for this equation. Correct, it is up. Because that is positive. Okay? What's my A value here? What's my value for A for this one? Yosan says 4. I agree with her. So Yosan can no longer answer any questions. Okay, who's up next? Do I have a new step pattern? Yes or no? Who wants to tell me that? Charlie says yes. Now, you would not have a new step pattern. It would be a no if A equals 1. Okay, that's when you don't have a new step pattern. Because everything times 1, if I times this by 1, I just get the same thing. Okay? So if A equals 1, no step pattern. Now, if A equals -1, you would, because 1 times -1 is -1. This would be -3. So I think I did one. This one here has no step pattern because there's a 1 right here. Does that make sense to everyone? Now, what do I do to get my new step pattern? How do I figure out my new step pattern for this equation? How do I change the original step pattern? How do I figure out this new number? What do I do with it? I need Jeopardy music whenever I ask a question. How did I figure out this new step pattern? Right, this was 1 times -2 equals -2. This is 3 times -2 equals -6. Multiply the original pattern by the A value. Good. So this is 1 times 4, 4. Right? 3 times 4 would equal 12. 5 times 4, 20. And this would be 28. Good. Now for this question here, what's my H value for this question? What's my H value? Can someone tell me in chat? Just take the 2 for right now, okay? Just pull the 2 out, okay? Because watch when you say -2, because that might lead you to the wrong answer here. Okay, so which way are we going to move? Or if it's a negative in there, are we going to move to the right or to the left? Are we going to move right if it's negative in there? Or are we going to move left? To the right. Good. Remember, land of opposites. And lastly, what's my K value for this one? Who wants to tell me my K value is 1? Am I moving up or down? Up. Good, because it's a positive. So you have that, some of those ones. They're exactly. Now, sometimes, does this have an H? Does it have an H? Yes or no? Is there an H value in that equation? No. So you consider that 0, right? For this one, my H value is 0, and it's not going to go left or right. Does that make sense? So for some of them, I didn't include it. except for this one here. If there's nothing there, there's still a 1. Now, I did give you a couple questions like this. Let's go over this one. For these questions today, don't worry about this here. Okay, if you can do it, if you can figure it out, that'd be wonderful, but don't worry about it. Okay, for this parabola right here, is it opening up or down? It's opening down. Good. Now, left or right, how far did the vertex move? Well, first of all, did the vertex move left or did it move right? Vertex move left this way or right this way? You guys tell me. I'm going to kind of do this backwards. It moved left. Good. How far did the vertex move to the left? 3, 4. So it moved 4 to the left. So our H value is -4 since it moved left. Okay. Now, did the parabola move up or down? Did the vertex here, looking at the vertex, did it move up or down? Come on, someone's got to get perfect. It moved down. Wait a second, Mackenzie. The vertex, remember it starts right here, right? That's where it usually is. So it didn't move down, it moved up. Okay, and how far did it move up? One, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. Right? So that means our value here is going to be 5. How are we with those two demonstrations? Thumbs out of 5. How would you rate? Kind of okay. I kind of see it. Yod. Okay.
Mr. O,
Yeah, Yosan?
can you go up? I just remembered something about like if the A value is 1, it's something.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, so if there's no A value in front, so like for this one down here, I said, oh, the H value isn't there, therefore H is 0, right? But for this one, there's no A value there, but it's not 0. It's actually 1. Because if it was 0, it would get rid of whatever's inside there, right? Because you times it by 0, it becomes 0. So that kind of ruins our equation. So if there's nothing written there, there's a 1 there. But for other ones, if it's nothing written there, like this one here, do we have a K value here? No. So that K would actually equal 0 for that one. Okay. This here we're going to work on tomorrow as well. So for your homework tonight, not right now, because I'm going to do something with you, something else right now. I'm going to do something else with you right now, is to go through these. If you don't get these ones, I'm fine with it for right now. We're going to play with this tomorrow. So realistically, do these ones here, just like we did the demonstration one. So I guess there's 4 there to complete. So right now, what I want you to do is to get out a whiteboard or your notebook, okay? I need to stop recording this meeting.